he just unleashed. He just exposed the whole organization for the dysfunction that's going on. And he said it seems like it's some corruption behind closed doors. So let's take a listen to what Jason Lloyd had to say when he called in on the Ken Carman and Anthony Lima show. Let's take a listen.
Right now. So are we looking at the last week of Dillon Gabriel as the quarterback of the Browns?
I don't know. I tend to say no, but I do think Shedur is going to play at some point. I don't know that we're there yet. I just don't think that we are. I think that they're going to keep running Dillon out there, barring injury or total collapse and catastrophe. I mean, yeah, obviously it hasn't looked good.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. You ever hear something on live radio that makes the entire room freeze? That's exactly what happened when Jason Lloyd dropped his bomb on the Anthony Lima and Ken Carman show. This wasn't just another Cleveland sports rant. This wasn't fan frustration or social media speculation. This was Jason Lloyd, one of the most respected insiders in the city, saying out loud what a lot of people have been whispering behind closed doors, that something inside the Cleveland Browns organization is rotten. He didn't come in throwing wild accusations or conspiracy theories. He came in calm, composed, and then, with one sentence, he flipped the entire narrative upside down. There's going to be a 30 for 30 on this Shedur Sanders season. That's what he said, just like that. No laughter, no hesitation. And for a second, you could hear the shock in the studio. That nervous silence that hits when everyone suddenly realizes, wait, this isn't a joke. Think about the weight of that statement. A 30 for 30? That's not something you say about a normal football season. You say that when something historic, controversial, or downright dirty is happening. And for Jason Lloyd to imply that right now, in the middle of this quarterback mess, the Browns might already be writing the first chapter of an ESPN documentary, that's not just spicy commentary. That's a warning shot. Fans online went crazy. Some thought Jason was exaggerating. Others said he finally said what we've all been thinking, that Cleveland's so-called new era of accountability has turned into a shadow war of power, ego, and straight-up dysfunction. Because let's be real, this isn't the first time chaos has brewed behind those doors, but this time, it feels different. This time, it's centered around a rookie quarterback who represents the future. Shedur Sanders isn't just another player. He's the son of Stefanski Sanders. He's a national name, and he's supposed to be the spark that finally brings energy back to a cursed franchise. But now that spark has become the lightning rod. And when Jason Lloyd, a guy with real connections, a guy who's been around this organization for years, goes on live radio and basically says, there's corruption in that building, you stop what you're doing and listen. You could sense the tension in the host's voices. What do you mean by that, Jason? What do you know? They pushed him. They wanted details. But Lloyd didn't give it up. Instead, he said it straight. There's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes. I think that's pretty evident. And right there, boom. That line hit harder than any hot take on ESPN. Because when a journalist that careful, that respected, chooses those words, it means one thing. There's fire behind the smoke. And that's the moment the mood shifted. It wasn't about quarterback debates anymore. It wasn't about whether Dillon Gabriel or Shedur should start. This was bigger. This was about power, politics, and the ugly truth that maybe, just maybe, the Cleveland Browns are sabotaging themselves from the inside. So let's call it what it is. This wasn't just a headline. This was a bombshell revelation that might reshape everything we think we know about this team. Because when insiders start hinting at documentaries before the season's even halfway over, you know there's chaos brewing behind the curtain. And here's the craziest part. If Jason Lloyd's right, then this isn't just about poor play calling or quarterback rotations. This is about control, about who's really pulling the strings in Cleveland. And if that's true, then something is seriously broken inside the Cleveland Browns. And it all starts at the top. You ever notice how every time Cleveland gets a spark of hope, something, someone, finds a way to smother it. That's exactly what's happening right now with Shedur Sanders. A young, disciplined, high-character quarterback walks into one of the most unstable franchises in the NFL. And within a few months, he's trapped in the middle of a war he never started. This was supposed to be different. When the Browns drafted Shedur, fans thought they were witnessing a turning point. Finally, I'm a quarterback who wasn't just raw talent, but mentally sharp, polished, and hungry to prove himself. A kid who studied under Shedur Sanders, who handled pressure like it was built into his DNA. Everyone said, this is the one. This is the guy who can change the culture. And at first it felt like that. The energy in Cleveland was different. Training camp buzzed every time Shedur took the field. His timing looked crisp, his leadership natural. Coaches praised his film work, his command in the huddle, the quiet confidence that reminded you of young Jalen Hurts, mature beyond his years. Fans saw what we all saw, a rookie who didn't look like a rookie. But then, everything changed. The Browns' offense started collapsing. Dillon Gabriel struggled. The play calling was flat, the rhythm gone. And instead of adjusting, instead of rewarding performance, the organization started playing musical chairs. One week, Shedur's listed as QB2, ready to go if things go south. The next week, he's inactive. Then suddenly he's back again. No explanation, no consistency, just chaos. And you're telling me that's football logic? No chance. They said it was a back injury. Sure, convenient timing, right? He's healthy enough to practice, healthy enough to travel, but not healthy enough to dress? The same week the offense completely implodes? Come on. That's not coincidence. That's control. That's someone upstairs pulling strings, deciding when and where this kid gets seen. And then came the Patriots game. The moment everything started to smell wrong. The team deactivated Shedur, claimed he needed rest, and promoted Bailey Zappi to QB2, a guy who'd barely taken reps with the first team. It made no football sense. You're struggling to move the ball, desperate for a spark, and you bench the most talented quarterback on your roster? Why? 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 This is where it starts to feel less like football and more like politics. The whispers around Cleveland started picking up. Ownership meddling. Stefanski fighting for control. Executives worried about what happens if Shedur outshines their veteran investments. Think about that. They're not afraid of him failing. They're afraid of him succeeding. Because if Shedur lights it up, it exposes every bad decision this front office has made. Every dollar wasted on quarterbacks who couldn't deliver. Every ounce of misplaced faith in a coaching staff that's lost its pulse. And that's where Shedur got caught. Not between defenses, but between egos. Between ownership and a coach desperate to keep his job. Between truth and narrative. He's being punished for potential. Buried for being the guy who could make the people above him look foolish. You can feel the tension every time the media brings him up. Analysts start spinning talking points. He's not ready. He's got to earn it. He's young. Give him time. Sounds familiar, right? It's the same script they use every time they want to deflect from the real issue. This isn't about readiness. This is about reputation. And here's what makes it so frustrating. Through it all, Shedur stayed composed. No outbursts, no drama, no leaks from his camp. Just silence, work, focus. That's maturity most veterans don't have. But in Cleveland, it doesn't matter. Because when politics rule the locker room, discipline becomes invisible. And it leaves you asking the question every Browns fan is thinking right now. If this is how the organization treats the future, what does that say about the present? You know what's crazy? Just a few years ago, Kevin Stefanski was supposed to be the savior of the Cleveland Browns, the calm, analytical mind who finally brought order to decades of chaos. He was that guy, the coach who won NFL Coach of the Year, led the Browns to the playoffs, and made fans believe that maybe, just maybe, this franchise had finally found its adult in the room. But fast forward to now, and it's like we're watching that entire legacy crumble in real time. Stefanski doesn't look like the genius anymore. He looks like a man hanging on by a thread, stripped of his authority, second-guessed by ownership, and publicly humiliated by his own front office. Jason Lloyd didn't just expose a story about Shedur Sanders. He exposed the truth about Kevin Stefanski's downfall. Because when Lloyd said Stefanski didn't choose to hand over his play-calling duties, that he was fired from them, that changed everything. That one sentence rewrote the entire narrative. This wasn't a head coach taking accountability. It was a head coach getting benched by his bosses, and in the NFL, that's as bad as it gets. Think about it. Play calling is a coach's identity. It's their fingerprint on every drive, every touchdown, every decision that defines a team. When ownership steps in and says, "You're done," that's not just a demotion, that's an execution. It tells your players, your staff, and the entire league that you've lost the locker room and the trust upstairs. And that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland. Stefanski's offense was supposed to be creative, balanced, modern. Instead, it's become predictable, lifeless, and flat-out unwatchable. For 2 straight years, the Browns' offense has ranked near the bottom in efficiency. Quarterbacks come and go. Systems change. Excuses pile up. And every time things go wrong, Stefanski points to something: injuries, execution, timing, anything but the mirror. But now, he can't hide. Because when ownership has to step in again to take away your play sheet, that's not bad luck. That's failure. And it's created a complete leadership vacuum. You've got Tommy Rees, the new offensive coordinator, trying to assert control over a system he didn't build. You've got Stefanski pretending he's still involved while watching someone else call his plays. You've got ownership, Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry, meddling from the top, pulling strings like puppet masters. And right in the middle of all of it, Shedur Sanders, a rookie quarterback trying to learn the game while the adults in the room are busy fighting over power. How's a young QB supposed to develop in that environment? How's he supposed to trust the process when even his head coach isn't trusted by his own bosses? You can't build culture like that. You can't build anything like that. And honestly, you can feel the desperation coming off Stefanski now. Watch his press conferences. Listen to the tone. It's defensive, cautious. You can tell he knows he's on borrowed time. Because once a coach loses both the locker room and the upstairs, there's no coming back. That's when survival mode kicks in. That's when decisions stop being about winning and start being about saving face. And that's where Stefanski's at right now. Every lineup change, every injury report, every vague answer about the quarterback position, it's all about control, protecting his image, protecting his job. Not progress, not development, just self-preservation. And it's sad, man. Because this is the same guy who once made Cleveland believe in something. The same coach who made fans say, "We're not a joke anymore." But when you strip away the trust, the leadership, the respect, all that's left is chaos. Because when your players stop believing in the play caller and your front office stops trusting your decisions, you don't have a football team anymore. You have a circus. And inside that circus, real talent, like Shedur Sanders, gets lost in the noise. Because when power becomes more important than progress, talent gets buried. Let's stop pretending this is just about football. This isn't about bad play calling or a rookie waiting his turn. This is about power, pure, unchecked power, and how it's poisoning everything inside the Cleveland Browns organization. Because if you really listen to what Jason Lloyd said, and I mean really listen, you realize he wasn't talking about scheme or performance. He was talking about something deeper, something darker. There's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes. That's what he said. Calm, confident, almost like he was warning us. And that's the part everyone seems to be missing. Behind those words is a truth nobody inside that building wants to say out loud. Kevin Stefanski didn't lose his play-calling duties because of football. He lost them because the front office needed a fall guy. Because when the house starts burning, the people at the top don't grab water, they grab scapegoats. Think about how this whole thing played out. The Browns' offense starts the year flat. Ownership panics. Suddenly, reports start leaking. Stories about organizational adjustments, new voices in the room, collaborative direction, That's PR talk for one thing, control. Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Barry stepped in, not to fix football, but to fix optics. They didn't strip Stefanski's duties to make the team better. They did it to protect themselves. Because the Deshaun Watson deal, a disaster. The quarterback carousel, embarrassing. The fan base, furious. So instead of taking accountability, they built a distraction. And guess who got caught in the middle? Shedur Sanders. Here's the real story, and it's the one nobody at the top wants told. The front office is terrified. Terrified that if Shedur gets on the field and actually succeeds, the whole illusion collapses. Because that success would expose every bad decision they've made over the last 3 years. It would show that the franchise didn't need Deshaun Watson's $230 million guaranteed contract. It would show that Stefanski's offensive genius label was built on sand. It would prove that the Browns, top to bottom, have been running from accountability since day one. So instead of embracing the future, they're trying to bury it. They manipulate the depth chart. They leak injury reports. They plant narratives in the media. They feed talking heads just enough to steer the public's focus away from the real problem. It's the oldest trick in the NFL. When the walls start closing in, you don't fix the structure, you distract the crowd. And Jason Lloyd cracked the door open on all of it. That's why his comment hit so hard. He's not just another reporter throwing shade for clicks. He's plugged in. He's connected to the heart of that building. And when he says something doesn't smell right, it means the stench has gotten too strong to hide. But this isn't just dysfunction. This is destruction. Because when a young quarterback gets caught in the middle of a political storm, it ruins more than just a season. It ruins confidence. It ruins careers. We've seen this before. Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, Trey Lance, talented quarterbacks thrown into chaos, blamed for problems they didn't create, and forgotten before they ever had a chance to prove themselves. That's not development. That's sabotage. And make no mistake, that's what this feels like. This isn't about protecting Shedur. It's about controlling him, keeping him in check, keeping him quiet. Because if he ever steps onto that field and plays like we all know he can, the entire house of cards comes crashing down. And that's the tragedy here. The Browns aren't just mismanaging a team, they're destroying their own future to protect their past mistakes. This isn't development. This is destruction. This is how NFL franchises implode from the inside. This is how promising careers get buried before they ever begin. They can bench him. They can bury him. They can twist the story every way they want, but they can't stop what's coming. Because the truth is, you can't hold back talent forever. You can delay it. You can distract from it. But sooner or later, the game reveals everything. And when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, the game is going to expose every single lie that's been told to keep him off that field. Think about what this kid's been through already. Every week, another headline. Every press conference, another deflection. He's had to sit there and watch as people with power turned his opportunity into a chess match. And yet, through all of it, no outbursts, no finger pointing, no social media drama. Just composure, just work, just quiet confidence. That's what separates Shedur from the chaos around him. Because while the organization is fighting for control, Shedur is fighting for purpose. He's not chasing a storyline. He's chasing greatness. And it's crazy how this always happens to the great ones. Every single one of them had a moment where the system tried to break them. Jalen Hurts got benched in a national championship and turned it into fuel. Lamar Jackson was doubted from the moment he entered the league. Even Tom Brady, a drafted 199th, was told he wasn't the guy. Every one of them had to walk through fire before they were handed the torch. And that's where Shedur Sanders is right now, in the fire. The Browns might think they're protecting themselves, but what they're really doing is writing the opening chapter of his comeback story. Because when his moment comes, and it will come, it's going to feel personal. Every snap, every throw, every touchdown is going to carry the weight of every lie told about him. Every he's not ready, every he's injured, every he needs more time. And you can feel it building, that quiet storm brewing under the surface. The fans see it, his teammates see it, even his critics feel it. You can't silence authenticity, and Shedur Sanders has it in every ounce of his DNA. He's been trained for this since day one, not just by Deion Sanders, the Hall of Famer, but by life itself, by the spotlight, by the pressure, by every person waiting for him to fail. And every time they've counted him out, he's come back sharper, stronger, more focused. So yeah, Cleveland might be falling apart right now. The leadership might be fractured. The headlines might be ugly. But Shedur's story, it's just getting started. And when that moment finally comes, when he steps onto that field and shows what he's capable of, the entire city of Cleveland will remember every voice that doubted him, every cover-up, every manipulation. Because the truth has a funny way of surfacing when it's wrapped in talent that can't be denied. They can bench him, they can bury him, but they can't stop destiny. Because when truth finally hits the field, corruption doesn't stand a chance.